Hi, I'm Mark from L&M Small Engine. Today we're working on a Poulan Pro PR25 pole saw. As you can see, that little saw on the end there. They used it a couple years ago and they left the gas in it, so the gas is nasty. Then we're going to tear the carburetor apart, make sure the carburetor is nice and clean, and see if we can't get this running so they can go trim some trees. So hope you enjoy the video. Okay, before I get too carried away on this, I'm going to pop the plug out and check it out. Make sure it ain't scored or something. It happens more often than you think. People forget to have a mixture of gas and oil in these little 2-cycles. They just pour regular gas in there, and next thing you know, it's scored. So I just like checking the plugs and everything. You can tell how it was burning, if it's burning a little bit lean or a little bit too rich. Spark plug tells a lot. And see, that's a little bit on the scary side right there. That thing was burning really, really hot. I don't see no flakes on there, but I'm gonna grab my camera and just kind of look in there real quick. These cameras here, they're really nice to have. You know, they're not really that expensive, but there's a camera at the end of that light right there, and you can, I don't know if you can see that on there, but you just turn it around. There's still crosshatch on the side, but as you can see in the center, it's starting to pit right there. So I think this might be okay. Make sure the piston's all the way down. Now the sidewalls. Well, there's a little scratching right by the exhaust, but it's not that bad. He was just on the verge of being scored, so luckily it wouldn't start for him. But yeah, these cameras are good to have, and they don't cost that much. You can get them, you know, on Amazon or eBay or anywhere. I can't remember how much this one costed, but it wasn't really that much money. It's well worth it. So evidently, we're gonna have to turn the mixture screws out a little bit so it burns a little bit richer. And before I go any farther, this hasn't been running a year or so, they said, so I'm gonna spray just a little bit of lubricant down that cylinder hole just to get them rings a little bit lubed up, so when we try starting it, it won't fry stuff right away. So yeah, this was just on the verge of getting scored. So okay, let's go to taking this carburetor off now. This has that automatic choke thing on it. You push it down and you run it till it pops, and you just push the throttle on, that turns the choke off. That's kind of neat. Take our air filter out. And there's 2 Allen wrench screws in there that hold it on. Pop that off. Fuel lines are nice and flexible and stuff. And another thing I noticed, there's no gasket between the carburetor and the intake. That's probably another reason why it was running really dry. I was sucking air into here. I'll be doggone. Just noticed that. So evidently someone tried to take this apart once before. Hopefully I have a gasket for that. If not, I have to order one. But anyways, we'll take this carburetor apart. Now these fuel lines here. This one by the primer bulb. That's usually a return line. So where they go in the tank, kind of remember which one's which. The return line is the one up by the gas cap, so then you can always take your gas cap off and look in there and see which one has a fuel filter on it. The fuel filter is one where the gas comes into the carburetor, and that's this one right here on these little Zama carburetor. So anyways, I'm going to clean that up a little bit before we tear it apart. Just spray a little bit of carburetor cleaner on there. This and none of that dirt gets inside the carburetor when we tear it apart. Carburetor might not even be that bad. It's probably that intake gasket. So clean it off a little bit so we can go and tear it apart. But let me go find the gasket. Okay, I got some universal gaskets, and this one here will work just fine. It'll go on there and see you have this little thing here. You know, some of these have like little O-rings gaskets. This one don't have that. Just raised plastic. So the bolt holes line up, and you got that hole there and the hole there, and that goes for the hole there. That's for your pulsation action. That's what makes the diaphragms and everything work. So we got a gasket for it. So now we're just going to tear the carburetor apart. You know, it's probably nothing wrong with it. We'll just clean it up. Yeah, grab me a Phillips screwdriver here. I don't know if somebody took that apart. You know, it could have come from the factory that way. Who knows? All I know is we're going to get this thing running good again. That's all that matters. I'm going to take this side off and look at the diaphragm, make sure it's not stiff or ripped or it's full of oil, but it's still really flexible. We'll take the other side apart. Look at that. Then I'll decide if I want to put a kit in it or not. These primer bulbs have cracks in them or they're really stiff. This is the time to replace them too, but this one looks like it's in really good shape. I'm sure there's not many hours on this pole saw. Sure they're not cutting trees with it 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. Screen's nice and clean. Diaphragms look really good on that side too. I'm just going to take a chance and put this back together again. Try it with that intake gasket. I just don't see putting a kit in this. Looks really good. You always have that little dot thing in the center. That's it. Runs the lever for the kneeling seat. Get all that lined up. There's no pins on these to have it lined up automatically, so we'll just start a screw or two and just go around until we get them all in there, then we'll tighten them up. Until it sat for a while, it's when I pushed that primer bulb, just pretty much pure oil came out of that because all the gas evaporated. When I brought it in, I dumped all the old gas out of the tank and it didn't smell very good. So we'll put this back on that new intake gasket, put some fresh gas in there, and I'm going to turn out the mixture screws just a little bit too. And we'll fine tune it. There are your mixture screws right here. And it'll say on the sides here, that's a L. There's an L right there, and there's a H over here. So I'm going to find the special tool for that. I'm going to turn them out like about a quarter of a turn each till we get it running, and we'll fine tune it. Here's a tool for this particular one. We'll just turn them both out. It's like a quarter of a turn till we get it running. And like the low, that's when you like give it gas. If it kind of dogs out, then you turn it up if it improves, or you turn it down till it improves. And on the high, that's when it's running wide open. You really don't want it screeching in the wind, but you turn it up to that, then you open it up just a little bit so you don't score your piston. But we'll do that when we get it running. Let's go ahead and put it back on. Okay, we're getting ready to put this back on, and I just noticed on the air cleaner base there wasn't a gasket on that either. So I really don't know if it came from the factory this way or what. So anyways, I'm going to put a gasket on this side too, because dirt can suck it on that side. Where you're not worried about the air sucking on that side. You're just worried about the dirt. Okay. So we'll get these fuel lines hooked up here and stuff. So if you want to look in your tank, and there's one that just sticks in your tank just a little bit. That's your one that just sticks your tank a little bit. That's your turn line. The one with the filter on it, that's the line that brings the gas to the carburetor. If you don't know, just grab a little wire with the hook on it. So this one here, that's the one that has the fuel filter on it. And this one here, that's your return line. And we'll hook up our throttle cable. Make sure it goes around that little peg right there. We got our gasket on that there. And we'll grab our other gasket, put it in there. Line the screw holes up. And that'll make a world of difference on it running right there, you'd think. And some of these 2-cycle engines, they have O-rings. They don't have gaskets. They just have O-rings around there. And some have gaskets. And this one didn't have the O-ring. It's supposed to have gaskets. So I don't know if someone tore us apart at one time, or they forgot to put on in the factory. You just never know. All right, well, I'm going to put some 2-cycle gas in that. And we'll see what happens, I guess. Okay, I'll get everything all situated here. We'll fire it. All right. Got my mixture screw here. Put on choke. Push the primer bulb. See what happens, I guess. Now that sounds like it's supposed to. So when you take stuff like this apart, make sure you don't drop or lose your gaskets, and make sure it has them gaskets or O-rings in it. But anyways, thanks for watching the video, and you guys have a good afternoon.